Are we live, Emily? We're live. Well, first of all, I'm happy to be back.
Welcome back, Rob.
Thank you. It was a crazy week. So let me just start off with what a stinking week. Well, first of all, we'll start with Emily. Drove her car off the road. Didn't just drive it off the road. She flipped it. DJM.
Yeah, totally my fault. Just drove it right off the road.
So what it was icy. It was like after our Christmas party.
Yeah, I couldn't even see the road. Nothing. I was a mile from my house.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
literally hit ice. It was either left ditch or right ditch. I chose the right ditch, and yep, it's a good time.
That's crazy.
My biggest regret was leaving my coat in Liv's office, so I was freezing cold too.
Gosh. Yeah, that's awful. Well, we're glad you're okay. We're glad you're back. I know they missed you last week.
Oh yeah.
Last week was like so many things happened. You guys,
Leather your face.
Yeah.
you didn't have me for the live stream. You didn't have DJ M for the live stream. Like stuff
We were
was
just out here winging it.
it was just crazy. So
But we did it.
Emily literally hit ice and crashed her car, and it was just
Yeah.
a terrible experience. Like it literally like flipped over in the ditch.
Yep.
So like
Brussels
were
sprouts
you
flying everywhere.
were you
Literally.
hanging? Like were you in your
Yeah.
like you were literally upside down in your car?
Yeah, and you know what's funny is literally I text Faith right after everything happened because me and her were talking at the Christmas party about wearing our seatbelts. And Faith, if you're watching this, this is your conviction call. But yeah, she never.
Faye
wears-
doesn't wear a seatbelt.
No,
No.
she never wears her seatbelt.
She
So-
like buckles it
Gosh.
behind her, I'm pretty sure.
No, she.
But then
has
I
a
heard she had
special
like a little
buckle.
extension that you just like stick in there. But did she used to buckle it behind her? Because I feel like I saw
I think
somebody's
so.
car that used to do that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
now
thank
she
God
just
you
has
had
a
your
clicker.
seatbelt on.
Yeah, but because I had my seatbelt on, if not, I would have literally been like tossed around the whole car and everything. But yeah, I got my salmon and Brussels sprouts to go, and there was salmon and Brussels sprouts everywhere, and mashed potatoes on the ceiling.
Oh,
And yeah, it was a
that's
good time.
awful.
Yeah, my
Well,
Stanley.
I
was,
am
like,
glad you're
leaking on
okay.
me. Yeah, me too.
Yes, that's terrible. It is scary.
Yeah,
Like it's traumatic.
yeah, it was. Today was my first day driving like completely by myself. So
Was
yeah.
it nerve-wracking or
Yeah, because I decided to take the same road because I was just like, this is the way that I always take to work. But then like it was raining and I could barely see and I need new headlights on my new car and I'm just like, this is not going well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I mean I made it. It's fine.
Poor Emily.
Yeah. I was listening to some good music though in my fancy new radio, so keeping me,
fancy
new
keeping
leather
me
seats.
good. Yeah.
At least you got a nice new car out of the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
Insurance better step up.
I hope so. Geico, if you're listening. No.
Well, so that happened Monday, and then Tuesday we're doing our leadership meeting, and my wife calls me and she's like, "Hey, you need to come home. I feel like I'm having contractions, this, that, and the other because she's pregnant." And I'm like, "Well, we're about a third of the way through our leadership meeting. You're gonna have to tough it out till I get there because like it's literally 5 weeks early. Like there's no way that she's actually going into labor." And then she calls me back, like 20 minutes later?
I don't even think it was that long. Like 10.
Yeah. And she's like, you need to come home. And I'm just like, well, guys, I gotta go. So I go home and like my poor wife, she's literally in the bathroom, in the shower, just laying on the floor in the shower. Like Maisie is crying. My daughter's Maisie. She's crying because her mom's like in pain.
Aw.
And she's all dressed in her socks standing in the shower. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. It was so heartbreaking. So then we get everyone packed up. We get to the hospital. Next thing you know, the doctor comes in. She's like, well, you're definitely having contractions. It's probably because you're not hydrated or this, that, and the other. And so like we're gonna get you hydrated. Everything's gonna be good. And like literally like 4 hours later, they're like, well, no, I guess this is go time. So like then they start doing all the things. I'm just like, so like, does this mean like, are we actually having a baby? Or are we not? Are we just gonna see how it goes? And yeah, we end up having a baby. So you know what the crazy thing is? So like she was in labor for a long time, but it was like not labor, not like you're actively pushing.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had kids, you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. And you watching. I'm gonna give you the crash course. So like first baby was like literally like 4 hours of pushing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like
Second time's a dream.
yeah. And it was like excruciating For her, definitely, but definitely, like, I mean, dads don't really like go through anything. It's not hard for them, but like it's tough watching your wife go
Yeah.
through that. So this time I'm like preparing for like the exact same thing. And the doctor comes in, she's like, "Oh yeah, we're ready. Like everything's good." And so if you guys have gone through labor, when the doctor like gets her gear on, that's how you know like, okay, like this is gonna happen in the next couple minutes. And so she comes in, checks her, and she's like, "Yeah, okay, it's go time." So we're like, "Okay, like it's officially time to start pushing." The doctor like gets all of her clothes on. I'm like, "What? Like, is this like what? Like, what's going on?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be like 2 pushes." I'm like, "What?" Like last time was like 150 pushes, and literally 2 pushes later, less than a minute, that baby was out. And I'm just like, that was the most easiest
Yeah.
thing that I've ever seen. And Amanda's like, yeah, if every labor was like that, I would do it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what? So that was my Tuesday into Wednesday into Thursday. And then poor little baby's 5 weeks early. So then we're going back and forth to the hospital, like ridiculous. We got admitted back to the hospital for a 12-hour period. Lack of sleep because now you have 2 kids. Thank God we have a mother-in-law who like moves in with us and takes care of the baby. So yes, it has been crazy. And it's literally like, and it's in like Flip Aquatics, like so much critical things are happening with end of the year stuff. So it's like, I mean, babies come when they want, but like
Yeah.
Milo couldn't have chose a worse time. Like, come on, dude.
Listen, he's like his dad. He wanted to go, and he was going.
He had it in his mind, and he was coming out. So, yeah, that's what's going on. So, a couple shout outs to people in the chat. So, is this week members only chat? Maybe.
Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, huge shout out to all of our club members. Thank you guys so much for your support. I know basically like my last thing that I did was the members only talk, and I lost my voice. But it was so much fun. So I had a great time with everyone. I'm excited to probably do it again this time. I've been MIA, so I haven't had time to really set up the next talk. So it's probably going to be me. But we'll pick a good topic for that. But shout out to all the members. Joseph Miller in the chat. So I want to make it more of an effort to include the chat.
Guppy Joe.
So Guppy Joe in the chat says, today our coffee is provided by Java Mama. I'm using the chocolate muddy puddles. Yum, yum. What are you drinking? Joe, I have so much more respect for you now. No, I mean, chocolate muddy puddles sounds pretty freaking good. So I'm like just basic. Well, I mean, I guess this isn't basic.
No, I think it's kind of bougie.
Trenta iced coffee, 6 stevia, and extra almond milk, stirred.
Stirred. That is the key.
That is the key.
And that's how.
If they don't stir, there's like literally it just sits at the bottom. And so like it's so funny now that I've been going to Starbucks for as long as I've been going. I get there and I order it, and they're like, "And you want it stirred?" And I'm like, "You guys are getting a tip today." So that's what I'm drinking.
Well,
so
Liv likes to pick on me about my coffee. So whenever
yeah, what do you got?
When I'm pregnant, I do half decaf, but now I'm just kind of stuck on it because when I try to go back to regular, I just got headaches and stuff. So
wait, when you went back to regular, you got headaches?
Yeah, like
usually
if I missed a day, like if I'm drinking regular coffee, but then I miss a day of not getting my coffee, I just get a migraine, and I'm like, it's not worth it. So half decaf with French vanilla swirl, blueberry. That's what Liv makes fun of me for. Liquid sugar and cream.
So you get.
It all started because I hate
blueberry and French vanilla.
Yeah, it's like a blueberry donut from White House, kind of.
Ah, that's.
It all started because I hate fall flavors and mostly winter flavors, unless it's like creme brulee or something. But like I hate spiced.
Oh, they're like Samoa ones. Like I forget what it's called. Like
yeah, that sounds good.
Freaking good when they have the Girl Scout flavors. I haven't done flavored coffee since I like did my weight loss thing. But let me tell you, I used to be a fool for some Dunkin' Donuts flavored coffee.
Cody just started omitting his flavors. I mean, Jay Guppy. And he said 1 pump of flavor is like 29 carbs. It's like, holy cow, that explains this.
It happens quick.
Because I mean, like, I have
How many pumps do you got in there?
technically, so I have 3 of the flavored, the sweet ones, and 1 sugar. So that's like
120 carbs.
Yeah.
What? No, and the thing for me is like once you start on sugar, like if I drank that first thing in the morning, then I'd just be craving sugar stuff all day long.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I don't
crazy.
feel like I'm that way.
No. Well, let's give a shout out to more people, some more members in the chat. Miss Shrimplet. Shout out to Miss Shrimplet. Say good morning, Flip Team. So good morning to you, Miss Shrimplet. Thanks for tuning in. What is that? You like that name?
It's Liv.
It's literally Liv. Look at the profile.
No, that's Liv. Oh my gosh, that explains it.
When she did the shrimp video, somebody called her Shrimplet Woman.
So now she's Miss Shrimplet. Oh my gosh, Liv, that is hilarious. Well, shout out to Miss Shrimplet.
Rob, can you see the photo? It's literally her in the shrimp costume for her photo.
Oh my gosh, that makes my day. Miss Shrimplet. That is the best thing that I've ever like, and you just laughed over here. I'm like, man, you must really like that person's name. And you knew. You both knew. I got set up. That's hilarious. Oh man. Well, hey, Joseph Miller. Joe says a nice coffee table setup. So DJM, shout out to you. We don't have guppies in it yet.
No, but people did vote.
The people voted. The members voted.
Mm-hmm.
And they chose guppies. And what type of guppy?
Dumbo Platinum Guppies is what I saw was winning last time I looked.
When's the cutoff?
I don't know if there was a cutoff or not.
We're just letting it ride for a little bit.
I mean, it's been like a week now, so.
Oh, so it probably is cut off.
Yeah.
We'll have to check.
Yeah.
Usually you're in the background. I can be like, Leather, who won?
Yeah.
But here you are.
Here I am.
Front and center.
I know. Ready to talk about some Neocaridina.
Well, let's bounce through the rest of the
all
chat.
Of my knowledge.
Yeah. So thank you, Joe, for that. We got Will in the chat, Sure Aquatic. So I always have to give a huge shout out to Will. The guy is literally the most generous person.
I know,
he's always
really
giving
is.
Gifted subs out. He's been a
It
Crystal
sounded
Club
like he was
member.
going to come visit, but then you weren't here.
I know. He messaged me and I'm like, dude, I'm not having a baby. My wife is having a baby and it's mine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Good news.
So you know me, like I'm kind of a jokester.
No.
And so the baby came out and obviously, you know, he's premature. So like they have like the reddish skin, you know, look a little different. And I was like, oh my God, he's so cute. And I was like, kind of looks like the mailman.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. all the nurses and stuff just started laughing. And then it was like I just kept making different jokes about him looking like people I know. And everyone thought it was funny except for my wife.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah, she didn't, you know, after going through
Amanda, we pray for you.
Yeah, it's not easy being married to me.
Yeah, so
Let me tell
it doesn't look like there was a deadline set, but Dumbo Platinum Red Tail Guppy is the one that wins.
Okay. So again, shout out to Will. Thank you so much for all that you do for me and Flip Aquatics and our team and the club. We really appreciate it, and we're excited to see you. So hopefully you can make it up. Probably this week wouldn't be good, but next week, depending on how things are going.
Is Will on?
Home. Yeah, he's here. My favorite member just got here. Passing wind. Love it. My little toot buddy. That is so funny. And then also Allison's in the chat. So shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the club. Thank you for being here and being part of Flip. So, but anyway, today we were talking about Neocaridina shrimp, and Leather is just going to, you know, take it away and tell us all about Neocaridina. But before that, Allison did drop her favorite type of coffee because this is Coffee of Flip. Cinnamon Dolce Latte from Starbucks, my go-to. Actually sounds pretty freaking good. They have like a white chocolate snickerdoodle, amazing looking one. And it literally had like 8 pumps of different things in it.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, dude, that looks delicious. But like, I literally would be like laying on the couch like sick after drinking that.
How many carbs are in that one?
A lot.
A lot. A latte.
A latte.
Oh, got it.
A latte pump.
Did he just
latte
do that?
Carbs.
Anyway.
He copied me.
You want another one?
Yeah.
Let's do one more.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
No, we don't do that.
This is actually ASMR with Flip today.
Yes. So Emily, we did a little bit of a I don't even know what that meeting would be called, but like kind of like just a check-in / questions / improve the company culture / all the things. And one of the questions I asked was, Emily, what could I do, or what's one frustrating part of your job? And she's like, definitely when you chew ice on the live stream. I'm like, well, I can fix that one. So yeah, so my goal today is limit my ice chewing to commercial breaks.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about Neocaridina shrimp. So again, thank you all for being here. Passing Wind. Oh, said something. So we gotta read what Passing Wind said before we start. I have a tank with blue dreams and orange tigers. So that's pretty cool. Actually, it's fun. So question number 1, then we can start with: can you keep Neocaridina shrimp with other types of shrimp? So Passing Wind obviously is keeping 2 types of shrimp together, but is that appropriate? So can you keep Neocaridina with other types of shrimp? Yes. But here's what I found. So first of all, Neocaridina with Neocaridina. Pause your thought. Pause your thought.
No, it's just it's really nothing.
No, please.
I was just thinking that I actually could have answered this one.
Well, please.
Probably not in detail as much as you.
No,
but
please take it away.
Wow.
And it was funny that you thought, I actually know this one.
It was the glasses adjustment for me. Well,
you can, but it's not ideal because.
Are you Googling it
what
right now?
Rob has found? No, I'm watching the live
Flip your
stream.
phone over.
I'm watching the live stream. What Rob has found is that if you keep them together, one survives while the other one thrives. And
this is Caridina with Neocaridina.
Yes. And so Neocaridina they can flex a little bit more with their water parameters compared to the Caridina, but if you have them in water parameters that lean a little more towards what Caridina prefer, then they will be the ones surviving, not thriving. Right?
Hey, that's actually really good. I'm actually really, really impressed.
Okay, so now you can just add to it.
Okay, so keeping Neocaridina with Caridina, absolutely, I have found that one will just survive and do its thing while the other one will thrive. So that was really good. And then I've had successes with keeping them together. And then like I've done it with crystal reds and I want to say cherry shrimp. And the crystal reds are the ones the cherry shrimp are the ones that thrived. The crystal reds did not. And then I did another one with royal blue tigers and blue velvets, and the royal blue tigers thrived and the blue velvets did not. So like both times that I've tried, now granted that's only 2 times, but both showed me that when one colony really takes off, the other one kind of like gets diminished. I've never seen them both thrive in the same tank. So prove me wrong. If you guys have a situation where you're breeding both, send us an email and send us some pictures and stuff like that, because we would love to see it. But that's just my findings and what I've seen through the hobby. Now, keeping Neocaridina with Neocaridina, do you know that one? So if I wanted to keep a cherry shrimp with a blue dream,
you're not going to get a purple shrimp.
Why not?
Because you're going to get something about wild colors.
Yes. Yes. So most Neocaridina are bred from a couple different types of shrimps. So like there's the original cherry shrimp where a lot of colors come from. And then there's like the chocolate shrimp where a lot of different colors come from. And so like we'll use chocolate shrimp, for example. If you breed like a Bloody Mary with a Fantasy Blue, you're going to get Bloody Marys, Fantasy Blues, and some chocolates because those come from the same line of
chocolates
shrimp.
Brown? Are they actually brown?
They're actually brown.
Are they like solid brown? Or are they like see-through-ish brown?
I mean, some of them can be see-through, but like the nice ones are like solid brown. But yeah, so like there's some lines that you can breed and you can get like somewhat decent results, but eventually like they're all going to be brown because what they've done over time is they bred a brown shrimp to be blue. And then they bred a brown shrimp to be red. And so crossing the red and the blue is going to revert it back to the brown.
Yeah.
So like they spend a lot of time to get those colors out. And so breeding Neocaridina with other Neocaridina or keeping them together like Skittles tanks or assorted tanks, like a lot of people call them. Eventually you're just going to get a bunch of like not so attractive colors. And so the only reason people do that is if they just want to pop a color. They're really not trying to breed them. And so like when some die, they're going to replace them with new ones, so on and so forth. And so like that is the main reason people keep Neocaridina with Neocaridina, but it's not recommended if your goal is to breed. But
makes sense.
There are some types of shrimp like you can keep a Neocaridina with a Caridina, and that's okay. You can also keep like different types of shrimp. So like bamboo shrimp won't interbreed with anything. A mono shrimp won't interbreed with anything. So like purple zebras wouldn't breed with anything. Caridina babolti, I've never tried breeding them with like our zebra baboltis that are like really hard to get and keep alive.
Yeah.
Those ones I've never tried breeding them with like a crystal red, but as far as I know, it's not normal for them to breed with other Caridina shrimps. So like that would be another type. But again, I've never personally tried it. I just know that they're a smaller type than a Caridina, like a normal Caridina. So like, I guess technically like a poodle could breed with a Chihuahua. Could. It's just probably not as likely.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a great analogy, Rob.
You know, I love having you on these things with me. Between you and your husband, I don't think I need any other guests ever. Miss J Guppy, Mrs. J Guppy, and Mr. J Guppy is all I need.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, what's Miss Shrimplet got to say in the chat here? Oh, she hasn't said anything.
Wow, that's a first.
Oh, that doesn't happen very often. Usually we can't get her to stop. So anyway, you got something in the chat?
Yeah, Allison Dalton had a question.
Ooh, give it to us.
Just received my Matin filter and set it up in my 10-gallon tank. I think my air stone is keeping it from functioning perfectly. Its instructions show a cylindrical air stone. I'm using a ball shaped. She said water is clear though, just not as many bubbles coming out of the lift tube.
So there's a couple things there.
Do you want I have literally no idea.
Come on.
I don't even know.
Diagnose this problem with me.
I have no idea.
So the first thing is like if you do have a big air stone in the pipe and it blocks the water flow, then it could prevent good flow with the Matin filter. So like what I would suggest doing is take the air stone off altogether and just run it with just the air line in there and see if the water flow improves. And if it doesn't, then maybe increasing the level of your water would help. Maybe your pump's not strong enough. You can also put a valve in your airline that could slow down your air pump. So things like that, I would just experiment with it. For us, it's always better if you send us like a little video to our email, and it's shipping@flipaquatics.com. And then
Jenna
will bring it to me and be like, Rob, watch this video. And then I'll be able to really give you some good insight and like what you can do differently. So anyway.
Passing Wind agrees on the surviving and thriving. They said, it's true. I only got them for the Neos. I wanted to get blues and reds, but they didn't have any reds at the time. So since my daughter is now going to the University of Florida, I got blue and orange.
Hey.
Blues are breeding like crazy. The orange are surviving.
Yes. That's good. So now +3 experiences where it's happened. So, and I mean, I've met tons of people that have the same experience, but I've only personally experienced it twice. So, thank you, Passing Wind, Mr. Toot.
Oh my gosh.
That's my favorite. It literally is my. I don't know. Miss Shrimplet's pretty funny, especially since it's live. That is hilarious. So Neocaridina, we actually did our club talk on Neocaridina and like just their general care. And I think so this is something that I say with all shrimp. Like one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they jump online. Well, let me back up. The first mistake that people make is when keeping Neocaridina. They're like, oh, these are easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy shrimp and I'm just going to throw them in my aquarium and see how they do. And then the shrimp die and they're like, oh, shrimp are hard. I'm just not interested anymore. So like anytime that you just kind of wing it, I'm going to say at least 50% of the time it's not going to be a success. So Neocaridina are definitely easier in the sense that they accept a wider range of parameters. But if you're not setting up a tank specifically for them, like you're going to run the risk of issues. So like that's issue number one. Issue number two is a lot of people do research online, which is good, but then they'll find an article of like, hey, here's how to set up a Neocaridina tank. They'll set it up and then they'll order shrimp from like a completely random person and then the shrimp die and they're like, oh, those are bad shrimp. So like the best thing that you can do if you want to buy a type of shrimp, let's say you want to buy what type of Neocaridina?
Well, me Kate wants cherry shrimp.
Perfect. So cherry shrimp are historically the easiest type of Neocaridina to keep. That's what everyone says. It's not actually true, but that's what everyone says. So
okay.
The beginner cherry shrimp. Now, where are you going to get them from?
Flip Aquatics.
Perfect. So the fact that you're going to get them from Flip Aquatics, the thing that you should do is reach out to Flip Aquatics
and see what their water parameters
yes. are. Leather. You're a professional. You said you weren't going to have anything to contribute today, and already you're contributing so much.
Just out here educating people.
So reaching out to us and asking us like, hey, what's the perfect setup? What type of foods do you feed? How to care for them? What water parameters? Like that is the best thing you can do because you're going to get them from us. So we're going to tell you how to be successful with our shrimp. Some people keep cherry shrimp completely different than us. And if you're going to buy them from someone else, then you don't want to set up a tank based on our parameters and our recommendations. You want to set them up based on their parameters and their recommendations. Because
so I have a question.
Yes, give it to me.
So I know with our fish, they are not supposed to float the bags because of the airbag or the breather bag thing. So what does that look like with shrimp?
So good question. So floating bags. So like you get your Neocaridina shrimp in. The best thing that everyone does when they get their shrimp in is they want to float the bag. Well, we use breather bags. Breather bags floated, suffocate. It cuts off the oxygen supply and will suffocate the shrimp. Do you want to know how I found that out?
Did you do it? Find out the hard way.
So, a little bit of a side story. You guys never heard this one before. Actually, I don't think I've ever told anyone this before. So,
heard it here first, folks.
There used to be a company, which I don't even know if they're still out there, shrimpusa.com. And they like had this beautiful website when I first started. And they had all these shrimp available, all these different types, which was like just not offered. And so I ordered from there. And then like it was like 3 weeks later and they still hadn't shipped my order. So I reached out to them. They're like, oh, we're waiting for our import. Red flag. But anyway, they're waiting for our import. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And I'm just like, well, you know, I really need these shrimp and I'm getting ready to start like some breeding stuff. And like, can I order some more? And they're like, yeah, you know, this, that, and the other. And so I end up getting this huge order. Spent like $1,000, which broke college kid. I mean, $1,000 is still $1,000. It's still a lot of money. But broke college kid, maxing out credit card, not good. So I get all these shrimp in. They came in a day late. And I'm literally like getting ready to go to Russ City youth group church. And I get them in and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, okay, they came in. They're all doing good. I'm like, I'm just going to float the bags while I run the church. So I go to church. I come home. Literally every shrimp is dead. And I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do? So I reached out. I'm like, literally, you sent me terrible shrimp. They all died. So luckily he replaced them.
Oh,
But what I
gosh.
found is like literally suffocated the shrimp. So that was my first experience with it. So anyway, floating your Neocaridina shrimp. Obviously, floating them while you go to church, not a great idea. It could
It's a long
result
float.
it's a long float, could result in some dead shrimp. But what we always recommend is floating is good for temperature acclimation if the bag water and the tank water is pretty close. You don't want to do anything too crazy, but floating it for 30 minutes is okay. Anything over 30 minutes, that's where you start getting into the
Even with the breather bag?
even with the breather bag, yeah.
Okay.
So that's where you start getting into the red zone. You don't want to be in the red zone. This isn't football, right?
Don't go buy groceries while you're floating your
No, I mean, unless like your grocery store is next to you. So 30 minutes max is how you prevent suffocation during acclimation. So good question.
Thanks.
You're welcome. But anyway, that's step 2 of don't do this. So if you want to keep Neocaridina, definitely, if you want to get Neocaridina from us, reach out to us. We'll give you the whole breakdown of how you set up a tank for Neocaridina. And we will guarantee that if you do what we do, you will be successful. Guaranteed. And if you're not successful, then we will make you successful. We'll send you new shrimp. We'll give you the deets. Whatever we got to do.
The deep.
We only had one person that wasn't successful. And like literally, I don't know what she did. I talked about this on the club talk to. She literally killed all her shrimp. She reached out to us. We said, this is exactly what you need to do. She did it. She killed all of her shrimp again. We're like, send us all your tests. Send us all. We sent more shrimp, killed them all again. And we're just like, maybe shrimp just aren't for you. Like, we literally, like, she went out and said she bought a new aquarium, like all the things. And like, I don't know what was going on, but like, I don't know. Maybe she was just hoodwinking us and just got a bunch of free shrimp out of the deal.
Definitely possible.
I don't think so. I don't know. But that was our only experience where someone actually failed. And we just had to say, like, probably not a good idea to get anymore. We're sorry for your loss. But anyway, so Em, do you got anything in the chat that's standing out?
Well, Guppy Joe's got a question. He says, question on baking soda. Is it a good idea for Neocaridina? If so, what is the dosage for a 10-gallon tank? Yes, I have a low pH as my source water.
Yeah, so Leather, I'll let you take this one away.
No idea.
All right, so Leather, let me break this down for you. Because you are my person that really doesn't know much.
Anything.
And so that's why you're able to ask me questions like somebody that in chat would ask me a question. Yeah. So baking soda.
Happy to be an advocate for
adding baking soda to an aquarium. Any idea why we would do that? Don't Google it. Don't Google it. Okay, I'll tell you.
I don't know.
Is somebody back there?
How would they get back there?
I don't know. DJ M, check that out.
Loud.
Maybe like the cart with water started rolling. I don't know.
It's the Burning Man.
Oh
it's the Burning Man. Em, are you okay? Maybe it's Mark downstairs drilling something into the ceiling.
Maybe.
And it seemed like it was right.
You never really
know. That was crazy. So, wow. The Burning Man. That's another story. We'll tell you later.
So, with baking soda, it adjusts something in the water, obviously.
Yes.
Obviously.
That's good. That's
Obviously.
good. Okay, so baking soda is how to raise carbonate hardness. Do you know why we would want to raise carbonate hardness? So there's GH and KH. This is KH.
Yeah. Okay. Remember, I told you that in the little bit that I watched so far of the talk, like my question would be to deep dive on GH and KH and what those are.
Okay. So that's actually perfect. So like, let's deep dive into it right now. So we'll get back to the KH question, which is which is actually the baking soda question. So GH and KH in Neocaridina. So speaking from our shrimp and what our shrimp want, is a 2-to-1 ratio. You want 2 GH for every 1 KH. So I think our ideal measurement is 10 GH and 10 or 5 KH. That's like the perfect ratio, perfect parameters for Neocaridina. So why Guppy Joe brings up adding baking soda into his aquarium and he has a low pH is KH is actually what stabilizes the pH. So if you have a 5 KH, that means your pH is going to be pretty stable and most likely it's going to be above 7. So having a KH of 0 is how you get a low pH. So buffering substrate, like the Brightwell substrate that we sell, will actually absorb the KH out of the water and then it influences the pH down. So it holds it at a stable level. So if you just have tap water that is a 6 pH, has a GH of 4 and no KH, that pH can kind of go wherever it wants. So adding baking soda will actually stabilize the KH and raise that up. Now, as far as how much baking soda per gallon, it's not something that we normally do, so I can't really recommend that. I would say add baking soda and then test your KH and then see where it goes. And then you can kind of build out your own, because I'm sure every baking soda is probably mixed a little bit differently. Maybe it has some additives to it. Maybe it doesn't. Again, I'm not a connoisseur of baking soda, so I don't really know.
So would it be better to get just some KH to add instead of baking soda?
It would, because, okay, so there's a lot of KH additives, and we have one coming soon. And so there's higher qualities than baking soda. So baking soda is like, food grade, obviously, because people use it for cooking. But there's definitely like ones that are specific to aquariums that have more minerals in them, different stuff. And so we actually have a KH additive coming out soon that will help with that. But it's definitely something that you want in your tank. You definitely, if you're breeding Neocaridina shrimp, you do not want a KH of 0. That would be bad for the shrimp. And so an ideal one would be the 10 and 5. But if let's say your GH is 6, and you don't want to increase your GH, then you should only aim for a KH of 3. You don't want 6 and 6. That would be bad. So 6 and 3 would be better. But anyway, you basically just monitor that KH and you basically monitor your pH too and kind of see where that lands. Another thing is live bacteria. A lot of live bacteria, TurboStart, the one that we use in all of our tanks, it uses KH as a building block. So like, even though live bacteria is fueled off of ammonia and NO2 to produce NO3, it needs KH as a building block. So if you have 0 KH in your tank, then you actually have to develop a completely different type of bacteria to process your ammonia. And that type of bacteria takes much longer to develop in my experience. And so like TurboStart will never work in a tank that doesn't have KH. So KH is very important to have for Neocaridina and a lot of types of fish. But baking soda is a way to add that in. But again, I don't know the exact dosage. So that's a good question, Joe. And you'll have to tell us your experience and what you do. So really good stuff. Let's do this Allison one. This looks interesting. So Allison said, is a TDS of 366 okay for Neocaridina? So I'll get to the rest of her comment in a second. But this is actually a really good point. So a lot of people use TDS as an indicator or like, hey, this is my TDS. It should be good for Neocaridina shrimp, right? Leather.
Oh, boy.
Explain to me what TDS is.
It is TDS.
Okay, so TDS stands for total dissolved solids. So let's say I have in our water a GH of 10 and a KH of 5. We're using RO water, which has a TDS of 0. We're remineralizing with, currently we use salty shrimp, GH and KH plus. And to get a GH of 10 and a KH of 5, roughly we have to mix to a TDS of 220 to 180. So 180 to 220 is like the range. And depending on how the salt's mixed up, sometimes it can be a little bit different. But generally, a TDS of 180 to 220 is good. So now, what if you have different types of salt, or your tap water is different, and you have a GH of 8 and a KH of 8? Your TDS might be 300, might be 250. It might be 150. Like, because total dissolved solids is everything. It's everything in the water. It's not just GH, it's not just KH, it's everything. And so now when I recommend remineralizing to a TDS of 180 to 220, if you're starting with water that already has a TDS of 100 and mixing, it doesn't mean anything now. TDS means nothing now.
Makes sense.
And so there's certain ways. So like if you just say, hey, I have a TDS of 366, that really doesn't mean much because I don't know what that 366 represents. Like even in our tanks, if we remineralize perfectly with 200 TDS water, and then we test that tank, we test the TDS 3 weeks later, and that tank is reading at 280. Well, how did it get to 280? So Leather, like asking you, like a tank that started at 200, how did it get to 280?
That's a great question, Rob.
Okay, so there's a lot of ways that it could go up, but like just throw some things out there.
I mean, well, could it be because of things we've added to it since then?
Yes, like what?
Like GH and KH and TurboStart and ACCR and all of the things that I don't even know what
ACCR could increase it. That's a good one.
What about all the other ones?
So we're not going to add more GH and KH after we've initially set it up, unless it's just through water changes.
Does it account for like any of the like stuff that starts growing in the water, like algae and all that stuff?
Yeah, that's all accounted for. If anything, those things would decrease the TDS because they're absorbing things.
The waste from the animals.
Yes. Okay, so feeding will increase TDS because you're introducing organics into the water. Alder cones, we use a lot of alder cones in almond leaves. Those are going to increase the TDS. Evaporation. So one thing to know about evaporation is when it evaporates, it doesn't take any minerals with it. It just takes pure RO water.
So it just like increases the concentration of it.
Yes. Let's go. Let's go.
I'm going to be a pro.
You're a pro. So there's a lot of things that will change the TDS. So like TDS should never be like a measurement that you rely on unless you know why you're relying on.
Like, I mean, you should probably know your baseline first, right? I mean, like you can't really talk about that question 100%. Unless you know your baseline.
So like our baseline is 200. We know that we remineralize to 200 and that's the starting point. So if a tank is 280, we know that, there's extra stuff in there, maybe medication, maybe ACCR, maybe we're overfeeding and there's a little bit more nitrates and stuff like that in there. And so that's an indication that like, we probably need to do a water change. Yeah. Or if it's lower, then we're like, we need to do a water change again. So it's more or less an indicator of like, hey, something's up. We don't know what's up, but we know that something's up because the number isn't 200.
So if it's low and you would do a water change because of that, is that just so you can like get back to baseline and then like remineralize it to where you want it?
Yeah, it's so we can replenish. So like, let's say you have bacteria that is just eating through the KH. Well, taking KH out of the water is going to decrease the TDS. Same thing with like if you have a bunch of plants, like plants are using nutrients out of the water. So like that's all going to decrease your parameters. And so like that's why you fertilize, you add trace minerals back in, you add NO3 back in. And so like the more plants you have, it's going to bring that TDS down. So there's so many factors that go into it. That's why like TDS by itself means nothing. It really doesn't have a purpose. And so it's just an indicator. And for us, like it's really good because we use it to simplify our remineralization process. Because we don't want to have to, add some remineralizer in, test the GH, test the KH. Oh, we need to go up by 2 more GH. Let's add some more back in. We know that a TDS of this will give us roughly 10 and 5. So that's a really good question. So to go based on that more, Allison, you said, set up the tank with sand, spiderwood, crema, pagoda stone, and live plants. So this is another good thing. So the pagoda stone potentially is going to increase the TDS too, because stone is a mineral. Like it is produced by the earth. It's going to, for the most part, leach some type of mineral into the water. And so my KH my GH and KH test arrives today. So that is the most important thing that you need. When we know what your GH is and we know what your KH is, that's when we can really help you diagnose, like, okay, like what goes into your TDS. So like the first thing I would do is test your tap water. What's your tap water at? If your TDS of your tap water is 150 and your tank's sitting at 360, like boom, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And so like, are you fertilizing? Fertilizer can increase that TDS. Are you overfeeding? So like, that's when we can really start diagnosing it. And if your tap water GH and KH is 10 and 5, just to keep it easy, and your tank is 10 and 5, and your TDS is literally almost double of what your tap water is, then what is increasing that TDS? Like there's a lot of extra stuff in there that could be harmful to the shrimp. And so that's where we can really, start tracking backwards and figuring out like, is something wrong and what's wrong. So that's all really good stuff. Najee Naser, did I say, M, how would you say that? Give us your version, because I'm terrible at pronouncing things. I want to hear the DJM version.
I will not be pronouncing the last name, but I will be saying somebody requested that I say the scientific names on the shorts, and me and Leather were talking about this morning. And I was like, if I don't even know how to pronounce cichlid, there's no way I'm pronouncing all these scientific names.
How do you pronounce cichlid? How did you say it?
Well, I think I said chicklid because I thought it was the C.
It makes sense that it would be chicklid. And a lot of people do say chicklid.
Yeah.
So you can't pronounce that name for me?
I mean, I would say like
they
Nasser.
say Najee.
Oh, Najee.
Oh, okay,
I thought you meant
cheater.
the last name.
Okay, you cheater.
I'm resourceful.
Is this how you went through school?
Are you guys just taking every sip together?
You just keep
we're synced up. We're synced up on our
cheers every time.
Yeah, we should. Najee. So first of all, Najee, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for participating in the chat. Always good to see some new faces in here. Najee said, I just wanted to thank Rob, longtime follower, first time chatting. But about 2 years ago, I got about 50 Caridina shrimp, blue bolts, a mix of pandas, golden bees, shadow missouri's, and a 40-gallon I have. Over 300 now. That's freaking awesome. So Najee, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of the Aquarium Club. Thank you for being a supporter of Flip Aquatics. It's cool that you've been around for, 2+ years. I think that's awesome.
Why does this happen every time we do a live stream?
It's because I don't know.
We need to move to a better part of town.
Yeah, we need to go to a better. When we get
we're near 2 hospitals, so
it makes
sense. That's the reason.
It's always a policeman though.
Is it?
Yeah,
I don't
know
the difference.
Yeah, it's not even an ambulance. When they're this close to the hospital, they just turn their sirens off.
I wouldn't know because I just ride in the back on the way to the hospital.
Never been in the front seat?
Unconscious.
No, I actually don't know if that's true. It might be ambulances every time.
I don't know.
But it does happen every time.
It does.
I was going to say, I
every
feel like
stream.
it usually is police because usually I can see the lights.
Yeah. What was it this time? You didn't see it?
I didn't see it this time.
Darn it.
I was paying attention to you guys.
So, Najee, thank you. NASA with ER. Oh, Najee Nasser. Got it. I'm so good. But anyway, thank you. So even longer, your early YouTube videos were used in my research. First attempt at blue bolts may have been 8 years ago.
Wow.
How freaking crazy is that?
OG
Nasser.
OG
Or NASA. NASA or I don't know. I'm already failing. Najee. We'll go with Najee.
Yeah.
So Neocaridina again. Do you feel equipped to set up your first cherry shrimp tank?
I feel like I have a better understanding.
So like, let's say you want to go home, you want to set up your cherry shrimp tank.
Oh
like,
boy.
What questions do you still have?
Well, I don't know the proper way to drip acclimate anything.
Really? You don't?
So that would be my first thing. Yeah.
So like,
but I do know not to float them more than 30 minutes.
Okay, so let's say you take your shrimp home today and you have the tank set up. Based on your limited knowledge, how would you drip or how would you acclimate today? Because you've been a part of like our fish acclimation and stuff like that. So like, based on everything that you've done,
are floating? Is that what you mean? That's all I know. So, yeah, I don't really know. I know we have the little kit, and I understand like it's a drip. So it's some kind of process. I assume it works similar to like a siphon situation, maybe like getting water from the new tank maybe into, I know, like I feel like I've seen videos or pictures like the people have posted on our Instagram or sent us where they have it in like a little tank or like even something like our catch cups or bowls or whatever, and they've dumped them in there, and then they're just like running the little line from the new tank to the bowl, and I assume it's just like dripping that water into the bowl so it slowly mixes together so they can slowly adjust. I don't know when you can be like, okay, that's enough.
That's really good, Leather. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. You just need a couple more little details.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
So first thing, you get home, you have your shrimp.
Should I should have my tank like all set up and like know that all my GH and KH and everything is exactly where it should be first.
Yeah. So let's assume that you have a perfectly cycled tank that is well aged. There's plenty of biofilm. You're ready to go. Now, like you've done everything. Now it's time to get your shrimp.
Okay.
This is what you do to acclimate Neocaridina shrimp. And any shrimp for that matter. So step one, make sure there's no deaths in the bag. If there are deaths in the bag, then it kind of escalates the process. You want to open them up as soon as possible, get the dead one out so it's not polluting the water because, as we all know,
it increases ammonia.
It increases ammonia, and ammonia is super toxic.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to open that up as soon as possible. So have a container ready that you can put them in. That's step one. Don't use something that, if you're going to use something that you use for normal dishes, make sure to rinse it really good beforehand. You don't want residuals of soap being in there that could, harm the shrimp or anything like that.
Emily's not on here today.
I know. Emily had this happen.
Yeah.
Poor Emily. So anyway, you have this container. You dump the shrimp out. You want to neutralize the ammonia as fast as possible. We use ACCR by Fritz and Shrimp Prep. Using a product like Prime or Fritz Complete are very concentrated and they'll deplete the oxygen in the water. So you don't want to do that. That will actually suffocate them. So ACCR is a lot less concentrated. So that's why we use it. So add ACCR, remove the death, and then now you're ready to start drip acclimating. If you didn't have any deaths, then you want your bag to temperature acclimate just at room temperature for a couple hours. And then you could float for 30 minutes and then you could start the drip acclimation. So either way, you need a container. You have them in the container. Now you're using our acclimation kit, which is literally just a clamp. It goes from one tank to your acclimation bowl, like you said. The best thing that you could do, like let's say your tank is here and your bowl naturally would sit like right here. Drip acclimating is great, but like sometimes if people do it too fast, it will overflow and water will just get everywhere. So if you have a way of making your acclimation container, the top of it, equal with your aquarium, then there's no way for it to overflow because once it gets to a certain point, it will just stop flowing because water is only going to go to an equal level. So like that's one big tip that can help a lot of people. And then the best way to acclimate or the right amount of water or the right amount of time is whatever they came in, you want to double that amount of water. So you want it to be 50% their water, 50% your water. Once they get to that point, then you're good to add them in. As far as how fast you could do it, anywhere between 1 to 3 drops per second is fine. I would say 1 drop per second is pretty good. It's going to be about 60 drops per minute. And that's going to get them acclimated over the course of like a 30-minute period. If you want to go slower than that, you can. The only issue is if your room is really cold and your tank's really warm, like there's some situations where like the acclimation water is going to get really cold over time. So like if you've already flowed them for 30 minutes, they're pretty close to the same temperature of the tank, then you only want to drip acclimate them for 30 minutes and get them in the tank. So yeah. So based on that, do you feel like that's enough information that you could do it successfully?
Yeah.
So how about this? After they're drip acclimated, what's the next step? So like putting them in the aquarium, how would you go about doing that?
Gently. Like one at a time? No, like just like dump them in so it's not like.
Oh, so you would dump them in with their water?
Yeah, Maybe I shouldn't though. Maybe I should scoop them out
Yeah.
and put them straight into
This
the other
is
water.
good. This is good. So what's the proper way? So
thinking about how we do our fish now, yeah, that makes sense.
So cross-contamination is definitely something to consider. I'm very confident in our water here and how we keep our shrimp. So the risk of something going wrong is very low. But
if you have a small tank, you don't have room.
You don't have room for toots.
You don't have room for that.
You're right.
Now, can we also just talk about how when we get our import in, how stinky the water is that we get our fish?
Yeah, that's why we call it a
That's
toot.
why you got to throw that water away.
Yeah. So ammonia smells horrible, and that's the smell that you're smelling when we're acclimating stuff, and that's why you want to get them out of the bags as quick as possible. And we could talk more about with like us getting in imports what that looks like, because there's a different thing. Because we use breather bags, we really don't run into that. But anyway, dumping the water directly into the aquarium, if it has ammonia in it, you technically don't want that in there. Yeah. And so netting them out is good. But if it's a brand new aquarium, like if the only thing you're adding in is the shrimp that you just got, then adding the water in would be okay, because neutralized ammonia will actually fuel your cycle. So it's actually not a bad thing. But if you got in 4 different types of shrimp, you want to acclimate them in 4 different types of containers, because you don't want to stress them out with reacclimating them to all the other types of shrimp, because we keep all of our shrimp in different tanks. And so that's a good point to make, is you don't want to acclimate all the bags in one container. That would be really bad. That would add extra stress when they're already going to be stressed out going into a new tank. So you only want to do 1 bag at a time, or have 4 different, 5 different, however many containers you need to acclimate them. But brand new aquarium, you could add the water in. It's probably going to be fine. But probably the best thing to do is net them out. When you net them out, you never want a shrimp to be out of the water for more than 5 seconds. That's just after 5 seconds, it's kind of diminishing returns. It really starts taking a toll on the animal. If they're out of the water for 30 seconds, it's really going to be bad. I'm not saying it's going to kill them, but it's definitely going to stress them out to the point where like they could start having issues. So as far as that goes, that's kind of like the acclimation process. But as Emily said, when we bring in imports, because we wrangled Emily into helping us with an import that came in, because it was a big one, and we were having our Christmas party, and so she really helped out with that. But the bags smell horrible. So when you're dealing with breather bags, you're really not going to have stinky water, and the reason being is stinky water means high ammonia, and high ammonia in a breather bag is going to kill them. High ammonia in a regular bag wouldn't kill them. And do you know why?
Because
give it to me. I love when you know the
oxygen, which you would have in a breather bag, because that's the whole point of a breather bag. It like magnifies, multiplies the effect of the ammonia, and then it would kill everything.
Yes. So basically, and I'll give you more of the scientific reason.
I just know you said when we're cutting open bags of fish, it's best to like get the whole process going as quick as possible, instead of just like cutting it open and like, have a conversation and all that stuff.
Yep.
Because the oxygen like activates it or something.
Yep. So the reason for that, so the why, in a breather bag, you have a constant supply of oxygen and carbon dioxide leaving. So that pH is going to stay very the same of whatever it was. It's probably going to stay really close to 7. So at a 7 pH, ammonia is toxic. At an 8 pH, ammonia is really toxic. So the higher the pH, the more toxic the ammonia is. So like as the pH goes up, the toxicity of the ammonia increases. So in a regular bag that isn't a breather bag, what's going to happen is the fish, the shrimp are consuming the oxygen and increasing the amount of carbon dioxide, which is going to lower the pH. So in a bag that has been traveling for 3 or 4 days, that pH in the bag is probably like 6, maybe even lower, 5.5. And so with that, the ammonia isn't toxic at all. Like, I mean, maybe if it's super high, it could be toxic, but it's really not toxic. Yeah. And so you open that bag, you let fresh oxygen in. Now all of a sudden that pH is going to start climbing. As fast as that pH climbs, that ammonia gets more and more lethal as it climbs. So like it's a ticking time bomb. Like you want to get the fish, the livestock out of that high ammonia as quick as possible, because the longer they sit in it, the higher the pH is going to go and the more toxic that ammonia becomes. And also the more the fish are in there, the more ammonia they're producing, the more lethal it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so like, it's just a ticking time bomb. So the easiest way to explain it to our team is like, oxygen makes it lethal. And so like, our goal is to get it out of there as soon as possible. Like, we try within 5 minutes of opening the bag to put the fish in their tank. And anything longer than that, you start really jeopardizing the livestock. And so that's just one thing that we go on. So just to give you more insight of like the smelliness, if you ever smell like really skanky, nasty water, skanky, probably not the best word, but the really nasty water, that is because it has a high ammonia, and ammonia does stink. So yeah. But anyway, jumping back into the chat, Allison said about the TDS thing. She said, thanks, makes much more sense. I am just cycling this tank, added turbo start, and will add snails when no ammonia. Should do water change with remineralized distilled water after cycle. So this is actually a really, really good thing. So if you're cycling an aquarium, it's best to add. Now, granted, Allison, I don't know what process you're using to cycle your aquarium, but let's say here, when we bring in livestock, we bring in a ton of livestock every single week, and there's no way for us to maintain a cycled aquarium without risking cross-contamination. And so what we do is we completely reset a tank, and then we have to completely recycle it when we get livestock in. Turbo start, you want to add when you add the livestock. Now, this is the way that we do it. Now, there's ways that you can get around this, but this is the way that we do it. So you add the livestock. Livestock's going to produce ammonia, which is going to keep the turbo start alive. So that's the way to do it. Now, Allison, if you are cycling an aquarium and you don't have any livestock currently in there, what you have to do is actually dose ammonia to your tank with the turbo start. And then once you start seeing ammonia turn into NO2, turn into NO3, that's how you know that the cycle is good. But then let's say that, oh, my cycle is good. I have NO3. I'm going to add snails. It's going to take the snails a little while to actually start producing enough ammonia to keep that cycle going. So that's where you run into the issue. Now you have like this 2, 3, 4 day gap where your cycle could actually die. And so that's why adding livestock with the turbo start really is how you maintain a cycle. And so what I would recommend is if you have 0.25 ammonia and your pH is 7, that ammonia really isn't very lethal at a pH of 7. Now, if your pH is 8, it's going to be a little bit more lethal, but snails are very hardy. So I would add them in, maybe neutralize the ammonia with some ACCR. That's a way that you can kind of protect the snails. And then just monitoring your ammonia, your NO2, your NO3 is how you'll know that that cycle is good. And then having snails in there is how you make sure that that cycle stays alive. And then when you add shrimp, those shrimp are going to increase the bioload, but your cycle is already there and it's going to grow with your bioload. So does that all make sense to you? Did I explain it in layman's terms?
Yeah, it's just a lot.
Is it a lot?
It is a lot. The whole cycle in general. Like, I feel like we could do a video or maybe like one of our digital courses that we want to do, like on just like the whole setting up and cycling of a tank.
So maybe next week. I mean, you brought up two things, like understanding like water chemistry. Like we could spend a whole episode really talking about that. We could spend a whole episode really understanding cycle. So those are big things. We could spend a whole episode really talking about acclimation and how it's important and the right ways to do it and all the things. Because we just spent maybe 30, I don't know what time it is, but we maybe spent 30 minutes talking about all those things. And really, those are things that help people be successful with Neocaridina, but it isn't stuff that's specific to Neocaridina.
Yeah.
So maybe those will be some things that we have coming out. So Allison said, I am ghost feeding. Will this help the cycle? So do you know what ghost feeding is?
I'm guessing she's feeding the livestockless tank for the sake of adding stuff to the water.
So
to get the cycle going.
Yes. So ghost feeding is like you're feeding a ghost, which isn't there.
Yeah. And
so the food will break down over time and that will cause ammonia. So the only issue with that, Allison, and again, I want this to be educational, insightful, give you more things to think about, help other people in the chat. So Allison, in no way is this wrong. There's just better ways to do it. So like, I don't think we sell it, but we could sell it. Fritz also offers a product. I think it's called Fishless Fuel. And basically it's ammonia in a bottle. And so the ghost feeding, you're taking food, you're adding it to the tank. So there's, this food that's in there, it's going to break down over time. But like that food, it isn't like, unless you're siphoning your aquarium before you add the livestock, which depending on your substrate could be really hard, that food is still going to be in there. It's still going to be broken down. You're going to have a lot of detritus worms start growing, potentially planaria can grow. It opens the door for hydra to grow because there's all these extra nutrients from the food. And so like food isn't just adding ammonia, it's adding a bunch of other stuff. And then other things need to develop to consume those things. And so like same thing with algae. Like algae grows based on an imbalance. So algae is water's equalizer. It's nature's equalizer to an imbalance. So like if there's an imbalance, if you have a perfect aquarium that's completely balanced, you're never going to have algae. So like same thing.
Wait, I have an analogy here.
You have an analogy? Give it to me.
So it's like whenever you get sick and you get a fever, your fever is to fight the infection and the algae is to fight whatever imbalances in your water.
Hey, that's a good one. I'm so proud of you. There's hope for you. Yeah. So that's really good. So yes. So like there's going to be things that form in your aquarium because of the excess food that isn't just ammonia, right? And so the way that you can prevent that is by adding just ammonia. So like liquid ammonia would be the Fritz fishless fuel. Again, I think that's what it's called. And so adding that in, now you're just focusing on the cycle. And so, so just to give you more insight, like now you might run into the issue of you have a bunch of debris under the substrate, and now you have a ton of little, like one of my favorite pictures we ever saw is this lady, and it might have been a guy, but it's always fun saying the lady. This lady emailed us. She emailed us a picture. It was definitely a dude. So this geezer emailed us. And he sent us a picture of his tank. And in the tank, he said, my shrimp died. And it's a different color. And you sent me bad shrimp. And literally, this shrimp, you can barely make out the shrimp with all the other like moldy crud. You couldn't even tell that there was substrate in the tank. Like it was just like I don't even know how to compare it. Like think of what the bottom of a septic tank would look like. That's what this tank looked like. And there was like creatures living in there that I didn't even know existed in the aquarium hobby.
And it's all your fault, Rob.
And it's all my fault. I sent him bad shrimp. So I was literally like,
yeah, that was a dude for sure.
What? Yeah, I'm like, what am I looking at? Like, what is this? And I'm like, man, like we need to siphon your aquarium. Like there's a lot more issues going on here than a dead shrimp. And so yeah, that's an example of somebody that maybe ghost fed for 8 years before adding livestock to his tank. But Allison, like ghost feeding definitely could work. I'm not saying it can't work. It definitely is a method that people use. I'm just saying that there's better methods today. Now, if you already have a bunch of food on hand, like I could see why you would do it, but like just know there's going to be byproducts that might be detritus worms, planaria, hydra, so on and so forth that could be harmful to shrimp.
So I have another question
that
I kind of feel silly asking, but I'm doing it for the Flip fam so everybody can learn together. So the like leftover junk from the food that we're talking about, is that something that like other things would eat and like help clean up, or is it just there? Like nobody wants that.
Yeah, I mean shrimp in nature are scavengers. Snails in nature are scavengers. So like adding snails, they'll start eating some of that stuff. But like you got to think like at what point will things eat it? Like you have chickens, I have chickens.
They're probably gonna eat the good stuff first.
Yeah, like if you take junk out to your chickens, like moldy food that has been in the refrigerator too long, your chickens are gonna eat it. But there's gonna be a point where the chickens are like, I'm not eating this.
The like, disrespect.
This has gone too far. Like this is unacceptable. And so like same thing, like there's a point where like it's past the point of edibility, and
yeah,
I'm not going to touch that.
And then it'll just live there forever.
Yeah, and then it literally will be like just sludge in your aquarium. Like think in nature, like if everything was consumed and regurgitated by like in a lake or a pond. Like let's say you start a pond and you put sand in the whole bottom of that pond. Eventually, you're going to get in that pond and there's going to be this much sludge in the bottom, right? Yeah. And it's just like no one ate that sludge. Like it's past the point of edibility.
Yeah.
And like it's just broken down over time, and that's what forms. So basically, that like you're introducing more of that sooner by ghost feeding. But yeah, Allison, like adding some snails, monitoring, like the experienced Aquarius, which sounds like you are, can definitely do this. I'm talking like mainly for like the Leathers of the world. Like someone who's never had an aquarium is trying to get an aquarium. Like if I told Leather to go home and ghost feed, and then didn't give her any more insight, there could be a pile of food at the bottom and she could be like, oh yeah, my cycle's good. I've been doing this for 30 days, add shrimp. And her NO3 is like 200 parts per million. And she adds livestock and they all die.
Yep.
So.
And then I would just be like, Rob, you killed my shrimp.
Yeah. I want my money back. Send me replacements. So anyway, DJM, is there anything else that you have in the chat that maybe we missed?
Allison just said that she will add snails and monitor the levels. She said she has plenty of snails.
Perfect.
So I think that's kind of going off what we were talking about anyway.
So Allison, thank you so much for participating.
When in doubt, snail it out.
Is that going to be on our next t-shirt?
I like that. That was really good. Did you just come up with that on the spot?
Yeah.
Or is this something that you say all the time?
No, that's the first time.
Oh, man. That was really good.
I just feel like snails are like a solution more commonly than people would think. Like when I first started here, I'm like, a snail? Like who wants a snail? And now I realize why you need the snails.
Snails are beneficial.
Yeah.
It's all about having a balanced ecosystem, and snails are a huge part of that.
Yes. And Rob, you can have a balanced ecosystem, can't you?
Yes.
Is Jay Guppy on there?
He is.
Is he?
He is. Did you see his comment?
No, because he's probably on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he is on Facebook. No, he's not a member. We can't
see it.
we can't talk about him today. until he's a club member. He can't participate. No, what did he say? I'm curious.
Well, he just said Miss J Guppy with the facts earlier. And then he just did the eye with the lips and the eye emoji. The like
He's so proud of you.
No, he's not. He's because we have this debate. Like I keep telling him, like, Rob tells me that I can create a tank that is very well balanced so that I'm not having to do water changes constantly.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't think that's true because we do water changes all the time. And I'm like, but Rob told me that if I have the perfect balance, because we don't have like everything.
You're telling me that Jay Guppy is questioning me giving you information.
I think he's questioning me whether I heard you correctly.
Can we hear it for the record, please?
Jay Guppy, I'm here to tell you that you can have a well-balanced aquarium. We call it a natural aquarium that needs little to no maintenance.
How often would one of those need a water change?
I mean,
just throwing it out there, roughly.
So I could get you perfect, easy to maintain, being overcautious, water change once a month.
That's easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Japanesey.
Too far. Too far.
We go eat Japanese like every Thursday when we go to lunch, and there's this one guy there, and he like gives you the whole dinner and a show, and every single time, same jokes every time. It's like he doesn't realize that we're the same people every single week, and he's like easy peasy Japanesey.
He's got a bit.
You guys go
Mizu.
To? Oh, do you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know they were Japanese.
Yeah.
I think it literally says Japanese grill underneath the sign.
I just always thought it was Chinese.
No.
But hey, it shows how much I know.
But Jackson said her facts is what I questioned.
Yeah, exactly. But now,
well, obviously he's not going to say he questioned me on live TV.
So he just doesn't trust his wife.
He doesn't trust that I actually heard you correctly and am relaying proper information.
She's
because
spreading fake news.
Yeah.
Fake news.
because I want to have a couple aquariums at our house once I do my built-in bookshelf.
You want a couple?
Yeah, because
I'm so proud of you.
I want one that's what I want, and then one that can be what Mila wants.
You want the living room wall leather?
Yes.
Is Jay Guppy gonna have one that he wants?
Well, there's gonna be guppies in mine. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
I need those pink metallic guppies in my aquarium. Yes, they're so beautiful.
Did we list those?
They're
yet?
so fat and beautiful. Yes, but no, I don't know if they're in stock yet.
But they're going to be soon if they're not already.
Yeah, I just don't know if they're out of quarantine yet. But I did get a picture.
Well, they
of them
should
yesterday.
be, because even if they're not out of quarantine technically, they're not going to ship till after quarantine.
Yeah, but I got a picture yesterday. I just haven't gotten theirs up yet. But they're so pretty.
That's awesome. Well, that's cool.
I'm really bummed that people didn't vote for. I don't know if that was listed on the vote for the table, actually.
Well, yeah, you can't be bummed if it wasn't there.
I think it was there. But the people didn't know. They haven't seen them. They haven't seen how fat and beautiful they are. They're not actually fat, but they are beautiful.
They are beautiful. Well, again, guys, we appreciate all of the members, the club members, chatting. It's really fun, just being able to have conversations and, passing wind together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. So huge shout out to all of our club members that participated today. We got Chris. Chris came in a little bit late. Chris Aquazone, Allison, thank you so much for all of your stuff. You're the one that really got us a lot of the content for today. Naji, I think that's right?
Yep.
Naji, thank you. Passing Wind, always a pleasure. And then I know that Guppy Joe was in here. So, and how can we forget Miss Shrimplet?
Miss Shrimplet.
So,
and Emily, if you watch the replay, we missed you.
We missed you, Emily, and all the other members. So thank you guys so much. We look forward to seeing you next week. Did we schedule next week live stream yet?
No, but now I feel like I have some ideas for.
Yeah. So we'll figure that out. We'll talk after this and kind of figure out a game plan. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week in the new year in 2024.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really crazy.
So Leather, thank you so much for participating today.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Well, I feel like I had more to bring to the table than I expected.
Yeah, I knew you would.
But
I had full faith.
We're just out here learning together.
Yeah. How's your coffee over there? Oh, you hit the line. You hit the line. Come on, one more sip to get you past the line.
Barely.
Did it. She did it. And if you guys don't know, we always make fun of Leather. She only drinks to the first or the bottom line and then stops.
It's a subconscious thing, I think.
I think one of our live streams, you actually drank the whole thing, and we were really proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
So they have heard it before. And then DJM, we know that you've had a heck of a week.
One last question.
Ooh. Well, can I finish my DJM shout out?
Just don't say bye yet.
No, I won't say bye. But DJM has had a heck of a week. And we so appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry for all that you've gone through, but I'm glad you got a new fancy car. And great job on the shorts lately. You've really been killing it. So thank you for that. And then what's our last question?
People have been loving the Amanda's gender reveal video that she made.
They have?
Yeah.
Is that on YouTube too?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's our #1 video recently on YouTube too.
Streaming everywhere now.
Streaming everywhere.
Streaming
I liked our
everywhere.
Christmas party short. I thought that was cute.
Yeah, people like that one too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually still waiting on the question because it said, dang, I had a genetics question. I'll save it for next time. But now I'm
stopped
waiting.
our goodbye for a question that didn't even come. That's next week's question.
For Naji. She's typing it, okay?
Do you see the little pop-up bubble?
No, I don't. I just
how long do you want to wait?
She probably tuned off already.
Yeah, she already
We're just
signed
waiting.
off. She was like, all right, see you next week.
She says I'm gonna ask later.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's gonna
Way
be a long
to
for
put
next
Nazi
week.
on the spot. Yeah. So we'll bring it up next week. So guys, thanks again. Leather, Emily, huge shout out. And I'm glad to be back. So hopefully nothing crazy happens next week and I'll still be here. But anyway, you guys make it a great week. Thanks for tuning in. As always, God bless. And
we'll catch you on the flip side.
yes. See you guys.